Hello everyone, my name is Nitika, and today we will start with our next class on Capsule course on reading comprehension. Now, today's class is directed towards making you guys come a step ahead when it comes down to tackling the reading comprehension on CAT 2021. So, as we have discussed earlier, reading comprehension is not a one step process. It takes quite a few classes to go ahead before you can actually make out how to go ahead with the passages on the CAT examination and to streamline your preparation in the same manner. So, we have had a few classes prior to this where we have learned how to go ahead with various types of passages. Also, we had a class on an introduction to RC, like what should be the strategy, the basic orientation, and much more. Now, coming back to today's class is directed towards types of questions. One, why have I marked it as one? Because there are two classes that we'll be taking when it comes to types of questions which are there on the examination. Before we move forward, I would like to introduce myself. My name is Nitika Dawar. I have more than 9 years of teaching experience. I have trained students for the management exams pan India, and I have done both my graduation and post graduation in literature. I'm a 99 percentiler in that, and I have come up with this application module of aptitude learning which you can easily find on Amazon. Now let's talk a bit about how can you guys find me. It's a very easy step-by-step process. So what you guys have to do is you just have to find the Unacademy learning app on your Play Store or your Google Store, or be it your Apple Store, and you just have to install the application. Once you're done installing the application, you have to put cat as your plus scores. You have to fill it up as your plus scores, and then you will be met with various other goals that you can manage. So for example, you manage cat as your goal, you set it as your goal and your plus scores. Once you're done with that, you have to just get a subscription to subscribe to all the courses that are available online. Now, once you are trying to get a subscription, you are met with various subscription plans which are available, with the most lucrative ones being the 12 month and the 24 months plan, and with no cost EMI options also available on 6 months, 12 months, and 24 months plan. While going for the cat subscription, what you guys can do is you can go for this referral code, which is Nitika 10. This is my referral code. This will help you guys to get a 10% waiver of any course that you're aspiring to, get a subscription on. So not just for my courses, but for any course that you're looking for, you can use this referral code in order to get the subscription. Now, I would also like to inform you guys briefly about these batches that we are starting on the Plus platform. So, these are the three new batches that we are starting. So, from today onwards, we are starting with this one batch, which is a beginner's batch for CAT 2021. And some of the very good faculties, very renowned educators are on board. So, you would have separate faculties for VARC, Quants, and LREI, and then there is a revision batch also, which is for CMAT 2021, which we are starting again, which is supposed to start from today itself. You have four sets of faculties who will be helping you to prepare for the examination, and then there is a complete weekday batch for CAT 2021, which is starting on 23rd December. Guys, look out for this batch because it has again a really good pool of faculties which will really help you to get a good um, hang on your preparation. You can use my referral code, which is Nitika 10, in order to get a 10% discount of these batches, right? So let's begin with today's topic. Just like I told you guys a while ago, that today's class is directed towards identifying what all types of questions are going to be there on the examination and trying to, be a bit more acclimatized to these question types. So, like we have discussed earlier in the introduction to RC class, that almost all the questions that appear on the examination when it comes to RCs are inference based. So this is something that we had discussed in the introduction class, that we always get inference-based questions when it comes to RCs on the CAT examination. So these inference-based questions are a bit different from what you have been attempting up till now. I even gave you guys a few examples, and we even ended up solving a few passages together to get a gist of how to attempt these kind of questions. And today's class is a bit more in detail because it will help you to get a basic idea about each and every type of question which will be turning up on the examination. So when it comes to inference based questions, there are various types of questions which qualify under inference based questions. So you will be seeing that how we'll be looking at each and every question type in detail. We'll be looking at the do's and don'ts. Excuse me. Also, we'll look at what should be our strategy while going about these kind of questions, and what should be the option traps. So which should be the options which we need to eliminate. So that's what we're going to do today. Let's come down to the understanding of today's class. Now, again, just like I said, there are two types of main questions. One are idea based and fact based. They can be subdivided into different categories, and each type of question requires a special approach, just like I told you guys a while ago. So, different entrance exams stress on different aspects of RC skills. CAT normally focuses on inferential skills and one's ability to tackle tricky options. Just like I said, so we are met with inference based questions. Along with that, we are met with option traps. So these are the two things that we are really looking forward to be able to work on, and to be able to encounter, and to be able to easily eliminate incorrect options. Now, just like I said a while ago, that these kind of questions usually demand a thorough understanding, a detailed understanding of the logic employed by the author of the subject of the passage, and these questions are most challenging ones, right? So, when it comes to NMAT and IAFT, these kind of exams focus on fact-based questions. They check the student's ability to skim through the passage and find the correct answer, but when it comes to CAT, they are looking for in-depth knowledge, like how much have you been able to understand, how well do you understand your author's viewpoint, and how well are you able to implement that viewpoint into your questions. So let's try to look at what all types of questions are actually going to turn up on the examination. So just like I said a while ago, there are various categories. For example, there are idea based questions, there are main idea type questions, implied idea type questions, fact based questions, specific idea questions, contextual meaning questions, and example based questions. They're going to be logical structure and tone style type questions. For obvious reasons, since there are many categories here, we won't be able to cover all these today. So whatever would be left would be covered tomorrow. In tomorrow's class, we'll be able to see how to go ahead with the rest of the questions. Let's begin with our first category. The very first category here is main idea type questions. Guys, main idea type questions are purely inferential in nature. They test your understanding of the author's viewpoint, they test your overall understanding of the author. Now, these type of questions are very, very difficult to answer until unless you have understood the author's main idea. So, until unless you have understood the holistic picture of the passage, you won't be able to solve these type of questions. Let's try to see some of the question stems for these type of questions कि किस किस तरह के questions qualify करते हैं main idea type questions के लिए. So for example, which of the following is the main idea of the passage? So please remember guys, if they ask you the main idea, or they ask you the primary purpose of the passage, or they ask you what is the author primarily concerned with, the thematic highlight of the passage, the best line to capture the content of the passage, suitable title for the passage. In all of these questions, the author is mainly asking you for what? Is asking you for the main idea, right? So they're all same, just that they are asking you about the central highlight or the thematic highlight of the passage, nothing else. That's pretty much the same when it comes to any of the other question types as well. So this is something that you need to remember. Now let's look at what should be our approach while attempting such questions. So usually what happens is many students feel that main idea, if I'll read the first paragraph and the last paragraph really nice, I'll be able to get the main idea of the paragraph. But that's not really the case. So you're not going to find the main idea in any particular type part of the passage. It's there under every line. It is the main reason why the author has written the passage. So please understand that's not going to happen. We also try to eliminate any option that is either too general or too specific. So there are few option traps that we need to keep in mind. So these option traps will guide you which all options you need to eliminate and which all options you really need to keep in mind while going about these type of questions. So you should not even try to read or skim through the entire passage to find the correct answer. Please remember that the answer of this particular question is not there in any part of the passage. So you cannot probably go back to the passage and read the entire thing to find out the main idea. So main idea is something which we should ideally target to identify by the end of reading the passage. So as soon as you're done reading the passage, you should be able to identify the main idea. This is a technique that you will learn, which I will teach you in mind mapping. So there will be a class that I'll be taking on mind mapping, and you guys will be able to see how mind mapping will help you to identify the main idea and the tone of the passage right in the beginning, so that you guys are able to at least go about the questions with the right light of the passage. Now we also need to eliminate ornamental or vague options. So any option which is containing just some information from the passage is never going to be the main idea or the primary purpose of the author. Now, or any vague option which does not really make sense, does not go in line with the flow of the author, also will not be the correct answer. So I hope you guys understand how we are going to tackle the main idea type questions. And the things that we really need to keep in mind before we go ahead with the same. Now let's look at specific idea questions. Now specific idea questions are the fact based questions. Now these questions are the ones which you can solve with the help of this technique of scanning and skimming. Now, all of you are aware what do we mean by scanning. We have discussed these two techniques earlier in the introduction class. So, scanning is when you are reading the question and then trying to go back to the passage to find the correct answer. Now, I want you to apply a mix of both scanning and skimming. It is imperative for you guys to be able to read the passage first. Of course, you have to read the passage first. You have to skim through it. You have to get a basic idea of it, and then what you guys are expected to do is, as soon as you're met with a specific idea type question, you read the options, you read the question, you can go back to the that part of the passage which you know holds the answer. So if you know which part of the passage holds the answer, you can go back to it in order to ensure accuracy. So please do not worry about wasting time, because these extra seconds will do what? These extra seconds will ensure accuracy for you. And just like I have told you guys before, that we always remember that we have to focus on accuracy over attempt, right? So let's look at what are these question types. So, for example, they will ask you that the author mentions which of the following, and which of the following is true according to the passage, or the author provides information that would answer the questions. What all questions? So, in these type of questions, it's like I said, giving the passage a quick read will definitely eliminate a few options for you. But in order to be completely accurate, it would be the best if you guys could just go back to the passage, try to go back to that part of the passage where it is mentioned, and go ahead and mark the correct answer. Try to look for the correct answer and then only mark the correct options. The problem is that these question types are usually easier, but cat is famous for giving you guys tricky options. So, options will look like, at least two options will look like they both are correct, but there would be something or the other which would be going wrong with the option that will make it incorrect. So, that is what we have to follow. For that is a reason itself, we are going back to the passage in order to just be a bit more sure. So let's look at the next part. What should be the approach? We should always locate the where the answer is mentioned in the passage. Do not answer unless you have located that section. This is exactly what I was trying to tell you guys. Apply a mix of both scanning and skimming. You can skim and find the portion from which the question has been asked, and do not hesitate to regress. Just like I said, regression will ensure accuracy over here. So do not be hesitant when it comes down to going back to the passage. It's eventually going to add extra marks for you. Let's get the third question type here. So for example, the third question type is implied idea questions. Now, what are implied idea type questions? These are those kind of questions which are again inferential in nature. These are again inference based. And while answering inference based questions, implied idea type questions, again you need to remember that the answers are never going to be explicitly stated in the passage. Implied itself means what? That it is implied, it is an implication, it is not explicitly stated. So remember that before you go ahead with these questions. Now they are hinted or implied ideas, and they demand a higher level of comprehension too. So what we need to remember is that we should be able to decipher the basic inferences while we are reading the passage. Along with that, once we have such questions, we should be able to synthesize correct information out of that part where the information is supposed to be coming out from. So for example, one such simple example has been given to you. So an example of this question could be found in the passage where the author points out various critiques of US's foreign policy, especially its role in Iraq. Though anti-US stance here is not stated explicitly, it is implied, right? So cat normally loves to ask such questions. Let's get some common question stems for these type of questions. It can be inferred that the author believes what. Now again, quite clearly they're just asking you what is the inference, what is being implied in the paragraph. So inference के लिए पूछ रहा है, the author uses dash 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 to imply what. So they will give you some reference from the paragraph, and then they will say this has been used to imply what. Again, an inference based questions, and which of the following can or cannot be inferred from the passage. So quite clearly again asking you the inference. One more thing that you really need to remember before going about such questions is that it's very easy to apply or form up an axiomatic view. What is an axiomatic view? Axiomatic view is your personal take on things. So you're not allowed to have a personal take on things. You're just expected to, answer in the light of the passage and your own viewpoint, your personal viewpoint is not entertained altogether. So you guys are not expected to carry a personal viewpoint. You're just supposed to answer in light of whatever has been given to you. The passage is the end of the world. Now let's look at what should be our approach. Our approach should be again to read between the lines, to be able to infer the author's purpose, to be able to take out as many inferences as we have, and then use elimination to ensure accuracy. Of course, we'll be using option traps. Option traps as a technique will help you to a great extent in order to ensure that you guys are able to get through with it. And we have to also make sure that the inference should match with the author's tone of the passage. Sometimes some option appeals so much to us that we end up marking the incorrect ones. So always check the fact that whether it goes along with the holistic picture which has been shared in the passage. So always keep this in mind. Let's look at the next type of questions. The next question type is contextual meaning questions. Now, these type of questions are going to test the meaning of a given word, phrase, or a sentence in the passage. And these are easy to answer if you have a good command over vocabulary and the ability to understand contextual usage of words. Please remember, vocabulary चाहिए भी और नहीं भी चाहिए. So you don't have to remember the literal. You have to remember the literal meaning, but the answer will not necessarily always be regarding the literal meaning of the word. So you will have to look at the contextual usage of the word, how the particular word is used in the context, and thereby build your answer. So common question Sam for this type of question is, what does the author mean by the line dash dash dash? So entire line is given to you and you have to answer what was author's intention behind posting a line like such. The best approach that you need to do when going about such questions is go a line above, go a line below, read a line above, and read a line below, and there you would have the answer with you. So, what we have to do is the moment we are met with a particular line or a particular phrase in the sentence. So, for example, another question Sam is that the word that can best substitute the word dash in the passage or the word or phrase in the passage implies this. So, the moment we are met with a particular phrase or a word or a particular line which is being denoted in the question, we try to locate them in the passage. Once we are done locating them, after that we have to read a line above and read a line below. Just reading a line above and a line below will give you a lot of clarity as to why the author ended up mentioning this or that particular line, word, or a phrase in the paragraph. So, you must always go back to the passage and read the context in which it has been used. You should also make sure that you should be able to find out any level of element of sarcasm or satire in the usage. So, many a times on the CAT examination, the author is using sarcasm or something to do with the satire, and it's very difficult for the students to be able to understand that the author is being sarcastic here. So it gets a bit difficult for such students. I hope you guys understand what basic sarcasm is. If you do not understand, don't worry, because eventually we'll be solving a lot of passages which will give you a basic idea how to sense sarcasm and make sure you are able to mark the answer which is in light with the author's intention. All right. Also, the meaning must match the author's intention again, just like we did in the last uh, question type, that the inference should match the author's tone. Same way here also, the meaning must match the author's intention. And these questions typically test your vocabulary too, so make sure you are improving your vocabulary. That should not be a hard one, because like I said, that I'll soon be starting a course on vocabulary. It will become a bit easier for you guys to be able to tackle vocab on the CAD examination. All right, let's look at the next question type. The next question type is of example based question. Now, what are these example based questions? Now, you are asked to find out the reason behind a particular example which is given in the passage. These are more or less very easy questions, but here and the approach and method should also remain the same as that in the contextual meaning questions, the ones that we have just targeted. So, what is the only difference is that whenever there is an example given in a passage, it would not hurt that while reading the passage itself, this is a technique that I tell my students while reading the passage, and you will learn it in a bit more detail while going about the mind mapping class. You should follow this one step, that whenever you come across an example, think why has the author given me this example. What does he plan to illustrate? Or what is his intention behind giving me this example? So ask yourself this little question the moment you are met with a particular example, because trust me guys, 80% of the times you are always going to get a question on example if the any example has been used in the paragraph. So always remember to ask yourself this little question. If you do this small exercise in the very beginning, it will automatically become a bit more acceptable and easier for you to go ahead with it on the actual examination. Now let's look at a few common question stems for these type of questions. So the author talks about dash 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 in the passage in order to. The author gives the example of dash 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 in order to. The instance of dash has been mentioned in order to. So in all these questions, the author is just asking you why or for what reason has this particular thing been mentioned in the passage, right? Now, what should be our approach? The author usually always gives example to back up his main idea, right? To give some support or show some negation of the main idea. So, if you are able to find the main idea of the passage and the main idea of the paragraph where this example appears, you have to just choose the option which matches both. It should go in line with the main idea and the main idea of the paragraph, that particular paragraph where this example has appeared, right? So that's all that I have to share when it comes to example based questions. Now we are still left with logical structure, tone, further application type questions, which we'll be covering in the next class. All right, so in the next class you will see we'll be able to cover these three question types as well. Today we are just going to look at these question types which we have already discussed. Now that you guys are clear, let's start with a few passages. Let's definitely go about a few passages, and I'll give you guys some time to read. So you guys have like 5 minutes to read this passage. I'll swift through the slide when needed. In case you guys have any doubts, you can ask the doubts on the live chat, and I'll be happy to help you guys. All right, I hope you guys are done reading till here. And I hope you guys have understood what's going on in the passage. So, before we move on to the questions, let's look at what was there in this passage. So, this passage talks about the Big Bang, how the entire term came into being, and it talks about the single initiating event, how the entire world came into being, the birth of the cosmos and whatnot. And initially the author is talking about how universe is expanding as a motion picture and whatnot, and then how the exact age of the universe is unknown. So I mean, it could be somewhere the universe has, so they don't have an exact number, and in order to look back at the exact number, they have to do a lot of research, and the lot has been missed out already. They've talked about linear and cyclical time, and how these kind of questions can never be confronted, and how the creator and creation is a vague concept, and there is no logical reason for the assumption, but many people believe that if anything comes into existence, it must do so in response to the actions of some rational being. So some astronomers, even though they resist becoming involved in the theological discussion, find themselves in one when lost when they posit the Big Bang universe. It puts them squarely in the middle of an age-old debate. So everybody has a different viewpoint. So if you look at theology has a different concept about how world came into being. But if you look at science has a different concept altogether, right? So science would regard to the Big Bang, and theology would say probably, for example, every theology, every mythology has a different explanation. So for example, a Hindu mythology would say that Brahma, who's the creator of the universe, created the universe in one go. And some other theology, if you will look at the Bible, and if you would have read Paradise Lost by Milton, you would know how God created the universe, and how at the book 9 was what was written as Paradise Lost. So, in the last paragraph, they have mentioned that one common misconception that has been disposed of immediately is a notion that it is analogous to some artillery shell, and the galaxies are not like this. And the raisin and dough analogy is more like a satisfactory way to think of the process. I'm not telling you what do we mean by that. First, let's try to look at the questions. So, the Big Bang refers to what? Any idea? Anyone who would like to comment? I think it's a very easy question. It's a specific, detailed question. And as we have discussed, specific, detailed questions are the ones which are easier to answer. So you can directly go back to the passage and find the answer. So what I have to do is I have to go back to this Big Bang term. So it says the event that marked the beginning of the universe was christened the Big Bang. All right. So coming back to it, so beginning of God is not the case. Cosmology, no. Birth and expansion of the cosmos, yes. Universal NOI, no. So answer would be the third one. So what we are doing is we're just looking at how we can go back to the passage. Just like I said, in specific detailed questions, it's fairly easy to apply a mix of scanning and skimming. So we have already skimmed through the passage, and now we were just scanning and we got to the correct answer. Let's get the next two questions. I'll give you guys a minute in case you want to answer. Look at the questions and see if you want to answer. Just waiting for your answers, guys. Okay, so let's try these. It says, according to the passage, the following is not true. So this is an implied idea question. So what we have to do is we can go back to the passage in order to get the correct answer as well. So it says exact time period of the universe has been be established beyond any debate. Okay, we have to find out the one which is not true. The second says definition has certainly evolved with newer cosmological evidence that was mentioned. I'll take you back to the passage to show this to you. The concept of time has two different interpretations. Yes, cyclical and linear time. Cyclical concept of time poses a challenge for the believers of Big Bang. We'll just go back to it. So it says questions the creation never arises. So yes, this is also true. So that means the option that is not true is the first part, because it says exact period of universe has been established beyond any debate. Whereas if you look at the first second paragraph, it says that there has been a lot of debate, right? So it says that there is some controversy about its exact age. Most cosmologists would be inclined to agree. So, not without any debate, but there has been some debate regarding finding out the correct time when the Big Bang came into being, the world came into being. So, first would be the correct answer. Second says the more common misconception regarding the Big Bang is that Rohan has answered here. So, common misconception, he says it should be fourth. Let's see, it says it cannot be defined in temporal sense. Second, expansion of universe is similar to explosion of arteries. Big Bang does not follow a linear time sequence. That is incorrect. Big Bang is refuted by a large number of astrophysicists. No, that is also incorrect, Rohan. I think the answer is the second one, because in the last paragraph, so it says a common misconception is what? So when we come back to the last paragraph, there we have the common misconception, that the common misconception is that the notion that universal expansion is analogous to explosion of an artillery shell. So yes, so expansion of universe is similar to explosion of arteries. So it says arteries here, arteries is the word. So answer should be the second one. I hope all of you like the passage, but do not worry. Do not be assured that such passages will come upon the examination. The passages on the CAT exam might not be that easy. Now you have another passage. They could be close to what you have at hand right now. So I'll give you guys around 5 minutes to read this passage. So we can go ahead with the questions. I'll swift through the slides when needed. All right, I'll change the slide now. All right, you guys have 1 minute to solve the paragraph. Finish reading the paragraph so we can try the questions. Okay, let's look at the passage now. So, this passage talked about some kind of symbiotic relationships which are there in the marine environment. And if we look close, it talks about the corals and reefs and explains you what are corals and what are reefs, and how there are different compositions, and how there are various other kind of symbiotic relationships which are undergoing in the marine environment, and then how the scientists have proposed to also propose various theories to explain the transformation of fringing reefs. And then they have talked about how some theory postulated by Darwin is considered at least partially correct. And then they have talked about how the name which has been given to reefs is kind of a misnomer. It is wrong. It should not have been the correct name or something like that. So this is what is there in the passage. Let's look at the questions here. It says, why, according to many scientists, has the coral name coral reef been used inaccurately? Now, this is the question which is mentioned here itself. Even the name given to reefs is something of a misnomer. Why? Because so just like I told you guys a while ago, whenever you get a questions from contextual based questions, concept based questions, or example based questions, you go there and read a line above and read a line below. Since there is no line above this, so we're gonna read this line which is below this. So sclerotinia themselves generally comprise no more than 10% of the biota of the average reef community, and zooxanthellae can count up to for 90% of the reef mass, along with the flora minifera. Guys, do not worry, you need not know the meaning of these terms. So this passage was scientific in nature, and there were a lot of facts mentioned that would have made it a bit easier to read. Now that the passage was easier to read, it means that there would be a more concept based questions, easier questions than getting those inference based questions altogether. So I think the answer is something to do with sclerotinia comprising of not more than 10%. So the very first option here says, because of the low contribution of sclerotinia to the composition of reef. I think yes, this should be the correct answer. We'll still read the other options. It says, because of the absence of corals on the reefs. No, that's not the case. Because of the not so direct link of the reef's survival to that of the corals. Not really. Because the contribution of sclerotinia in beautifying the reef. No, it doesn't talk about beautifying, just that there is low composition, contribution of sclerotinia. So answer should be the first one. Let's get the next one. It says, the author gives the example of Darwin in order to do what? To highlight the significance of Darwin and his theory. Let's go back to Darwin's example. It is given over here. We'll read a line above and we'll read a line below. So it says, pose various theories to explain the transformation of fringing reefs. Those connected above reef uh, those connected above the reef's level and above sea level to land masses into barrier reefs, that they are separated from the shorelines by wide lagoons and then free into the floating of atolls. Though the theory postulated by Charles Darwin is considered at least partially correct, some scientists today argue that the creation of reefs forms has more to do with the rise of sea level that accompany the end of that ice stage. Okay, so let's try to look at the options which are available over here to highlight the significance of Darwin and his theory, not really explain the relevance of Darwin in today's academic world. Not really, it is too general to be the answer. To explain how Darwin's theory helps in explaining a puzzling situation or highlight Darwin's contribution in solving an anomaly. I think it should be the third one on the basis of what we just read. And here is our last question. It says that the following can be inferred from the passage. I'll give you guys a minute's time to solve this. All right, let's quickly solve this question. It says, which of the following can be inferred from the passage? So it says many mysterious symbiotic relationships in the environment created a logical conundrum for the scientists studying it, or the Darwinian theory of evolution can be rejected by recent findings. We can't really say that it cannot be rejected. Third says reefs can only function, flourish in shallow, highly saline waters above 70-degree Fahrenheit. I think this is the information which has been given. So it says reefs can flourish only in shallow, highly saline waters above 70-degree Fahrenheit. So I think this is something which has been mentioned like a fact. So it's not an inference. The creation of reef has something to do, some relation to the end of ice age. It did talk about ice age here. So it says scientists today argue that the creation of reefs has more to do with the rise of sea level accompanied the end of ice age. One can say that. So I think yes, this should be the correct answer. So the answer is fourth. I know many of you will get confused with the third option because it has been mentioned as a fact. But remember, guys, we have to find an inference. And when we are asked to find an inference, the author is going to, confuse you by posting a few facts and making it a bit confusable for you guys. So be careful while going about it. Let's get the next passage. Mm, it is a bit lengthy. I'll again give you guys. It's an interesting passage. I'm sure all of you would be able to see that. You guys have 1 minute to finish the passage and then we'll discuss. All right, let's discuss the passage now. So, this passage talked about diseases and talked about how even if a particular disease is fatal, it seldom follows a strictly downward pattern, and intervention can appear to be quite efficient. And this all becomes more potent if you assume the point of view of a knowing practitioner of fraudulent medicine. So it talks about fraudulent medicine and how there are many ups and downs of the disease, and you know best it's best to begin your treatment when the patient is getting worse, right? So placebo effect has been mentioned. I hope you guys understand what do we mean by placebo effect. Placebo effect is when you guys feel a particular medicine is working on you, whereas it's not even a medicine. So for example, let's take example of any particular person. Let's say there is a girl named Juhi in the class. So Juhi here one day comes dressed all shabby, and she's not able to concentrate in the class, and we ask Juhi what happened here. So she tells me, ma'am, I haven't been able to sleep. It has been 3 days. I haven't been able to sleep, and all I can think about is consuming a sleeping pill, but my mom will not give me one because she thinks that the pills have hazardous effects, and that they have long term impact, and she won't just give me a pill. So I tell her it's okay, Juhi, just go back home and just let me talk to your mother. I And then what happens is next day she comes to the class and she's all fresh and looking really beautiful and everything. We ask her, what happened, Juhi? What came upon you today that you look completely fine? She says, I don't know, ma'am. You had a word with my mother. She gave me a pill. I popped it in and I slept like a baby. So now I'm feeling fine. And that's when we all start laughing at her. And then she says, why? What's the problem? That's when we tell her the pill that she consumed was not a sleeping pill. Are you guys aware those sugar tablets which come like sugar free tablets or something, which have no impact whatsoever on your health? Her mother gave her that, and that was suggested by me. So this was what? It was a placebo that worked on her. Placebo is where we did not actually give her the medicine, but she thought that she was getting the medicine. It was in her head that she couldn't sleep without taking the medicine. So that is what we have worked. We have played with her head. So that is what they are saying, that sometimes it's placebo, or sometimes it is the fact that we think that this or that doctor is perfect for us, and he or she always suggests the best kind of medicines and best course of action to cure us. So we put a lot of faith in that particular doctor. So they have given the ways how you can get it through. So for doctors, it should be best when the patient is getting worse. In this way, if anything that happens can more easily be attributed to a wonderful and probably expensive intervention. If the patient improves, you can take the credit. If he remains stable, you say that the treatment stopped his downward course. On the other hand, if the patient worsens, then we will say that the dosage was not enough, or बहुत देर लगा दिया आपने आने में, something like that. So there are many such cases where intervention will likely be remembered. Okay. So then they have talked about various such cases where probably consider a diet doctor who is telling his patients, you can consume pizzas, four birch beers, and have cheesecake, and still you might come up and say that, okay, fine, wow, I have lost 6 pounds and things like that, right? So and if you have not, then they would say that, oh, ये आपने ज़्यादा कर दिया, ये आपने कम कर दिया, something like that. They have argued such theories. Now let's come to the questions here. It talks about which of the following is not a defense against given by a pseudo doctor for his failure. Pseudo is fake. The time taken by the patient to come for a consultation with him, this has been given. The inadequacy of dosage administered, yes. The prescription given by his predecessor, ye nahi diya hua. Other than that, the delay that the patient caused in coming to consult with him, that is also correct. So answer would be the third one. This is not the defense which has been given up till now. Which of the following statements is true according to the passage? Proper medication administered by a competent physician always leads to a successful result, or experience may not dictate or shape one's belief system. Medical science is full of gray areas, nothing is either black or white. Placebo effects are integral part of natural science of any disease. We can't really say it is an integral part. So let's read the latter part. I think it is something to do with the third option, that how medical science is full of gray areas, nothing is either black or white. Which the following is the correct meaning of placebo effect? I've just given you guys an example, but that was an example. So, placebo effect does not necessarily mean lack of an actual drug. It means different things in different, contexts. So, we can't even say humorous effect. It does not mean pacifying effect. It means psychiatric manipulation, manipulation of any kind. Okay. Now, let's look at one more passage. I think we have covered this earlier. Let's get the next one. You have some time to read the passage. It's a lengthy passage here. I'll switch the slide in 1 minute. It's a nice passage. All right, so let's look at the passage. Now, before we move on to the questions, I would like to discuss this passage with you guys because I know it is one of the tricky passages that are there. So, let's start from the very beginning. It talks about how the person who loathes stealing, killing, and assault may find himself performing these acts with relative ease when commanded by authority. So, that means authority has a role to play. Behavior that is unthinkable in an individual who is acting of his own volition may be executed without hesitation when carried out under orders. So, when you have authority over you, or when you have orders being given, that is when you end up carrying out the same actions which you otherwise might loathe without hesitation, right? So, an act when carried out under command is cycle of a profoundly different character than an spontaneous action. The important task from the standpoint of a psychological study of obedience is to be able to take conceptions of authority and translate them into personal experience. It is one thing to talk in an abstract terms about the respective rights of an individual and of authority. It is quite another to examine a moral choice in a real situation. So, I mean, morally, you might or might not be making sense when it comes to a real situation. So, for example, if asked, would you ever kill somebody on a gunpoint? You might say, when you're just generally talking about it, you might say, no, I would never do that. But when you're actually on a gunpoint and you're asked to kill somebody to save your own life, you might end up forgetting your moral self and making a choice which you might or might not otherwise have gone for, just because you are under that situation, right? So, this is what it was meant by this paragraph. Now it says, we all know about the philosophical problems of real person who must obey or disobey authority. All musing prior to this moment is mere speculation, and characters of disobedience are characterized by such a moment of decisive action. So when I look at the next paragraph, when it says that when we move to laboratory, the problem narrows. If an experimenter tells a subject to act deliberately against another person, under what conditions will the subject comply and under what conditions will he disobey? The laboratory problem is vivid, intense, and real. So what we mean to say is, when you're in a lab and you're conducting an experiment. So, for example, if you are invited to, undergo an experiment and you are again made to, kill a person and on gunpoint. This is like a setup which is going on, and it's a laboratory right now, and you are just experimenting something. So, it's not really the fact that you're going to be killing somebody. So, you might say yes or you might say no. Otherwise, in the real situation, the response might have been completely different. So this is what is being talked about. So in laboratory, we are not able to replicate such issues. Okay, so in the next paragraph, the author is also mentioning that the differences in the two situations are, of course, yes, the difference in the scale, numbers, and political context may vary. And then they say, to the degree that an absence of compulsion is present, obedience is colored by a cooperative mood. To the degree that threat or force or punishment against the person is imitated, obedience is compelled by fear. So, by fear, you are obedient, you are complying to the wants of that person, right? So, the difficulty this entails represents a poignant and to some degree a tragic element of the situation. Nothing is bleaker than the sight of a person striving yet not fully able to control his own behavior. So, you might think that I might never do this particular act, but you will end up doing it just because you are under some kind of pressure. Now, they have further talked about the essence of obedience. They've said that how, the person comes to view himself as an instrument. Why do we end up doing these actions, how, which otherwise we morally consider incorrect? Because we think that, I'm no longer myself and I am not responsible for my own actions. This person who is holding me on gunpoint is the one who is responsible. So, this person is the one who is culpable for this action as well. So, this is the kind of thought that we generally develop, and we end up performing those actions which we otherwise would not. Now, let's look at a few questions coming from this passage. It says, according to the passage where the following statements is not false. Not false as in it means it is true. So let's try to find these statements. For a psychologist, studying moral choices in real situation is quite a simple task. Can we say it is a simple, because in the paragraph it is given that they attain a different kind of a viewpoint where they feel that we are no longer responsible for this activity which has taken place, and it is the person who is making us do this particular activity is the person who is responsible, so they don't find themselves culpable for the similar act. So I believe answer would be second in this case. Let's look at the last question. The question here. It says, with respect to the passage, every study of authority and disobedience is difficult. Why? So it says it is hard to command individuals as a psychologist. I can't really say that it is hard to command them. It is irrational to come up with an impartial judgment on these issues. It requires a subject of study to bring in their parents too, which become a practical issue. Oh my god, that's totally not the answer. In the laboratory, the stakes are not as high and the subject is not under a lot of duress. Duress is nothing but stress, so it's another term for stress. Don't get confused, guys. So I think yes, the answer should be the fourth one. Why is every study of authority and disobedience difficult? Because when you are replicating the similar thing in a experience, similar situation in a laboratory, it does not entail similar results, because eventually the stakes are not as high that the fact that you will end up getting killed, or you are under a lot of pressure or stress, so you might not choose to act in the similar way as you would otherwise. The last question. It says, which of the following can be inferred from the first paragraph? Number one, spontaneous immoral acts cannot be dissociated from the immoral acts performed under command. Immoral acts can performed under command should not be equated to the individual's personal moral leanings. Psychologists are deceptive and manipulative. This is a vague, very vague inference to grasp. So that will definitely not be the answer. Soldiers can be counted as common criminals. Oh my god, no. So the answer has to be either one or two. Let's just go back to the first paragraph once again to get a bit more clarity. So it says, a person who with inner conviction loathes stealing, killing, and assault may find himself performing these acts with relative ease when commanded by authority. Behavior that is unthinkable in an individual who is acting of his own volition may be executed without hesitation when carried out under orders. An act carried out under command is psychologically of a profoundly different character than spontaneous action. Now let's come back to the options here. Spontaneous immoral acts cannot be dissociated from immoral acts performed under command, or immoral acts performed under command should not be equated to the person's personal moral leanings. I think we'll go for the second one. Yes, that is what the author is trying to indicate, not the first one. First one has been disrupted from the main viewpoint of the author, and this is just a mere paraphrasing of the first paragraph here. For those of you who are finding any difficulty in marking the correct answer, do not worry at all, because eventually a few classes down the line will be coming, and option traps will help you to a great extent when it comes to eliminating certain options, and you will understand on what basis, what reason can you probably end up eliminating a few options. So you'll be learning that, so it will become a bit more easier for you to be able to understand how to eliminate certain options. That's pretty much for today. I would again like to remind you guys to not forget to subscribe for Unacademy Plus subscription. Not only will you guys be able to access all the live classes, you will be able to interact with some of the best educators all across the country, and you will be able to become a part of the live polls and leaderboard which are available, live quizzes and test series which are offered on the platform. You will also be able to go for the analysis, like a proper drill down analysis of how much you are able to score, your score versus the toppers, and had you not attempted the incorrect questions, then how much you would have scored. So these kind of things will really help you. Along with that, you will also be able to become a part of live doubt clearing sessions, so which will be able to help you in a light that you don't have to pile on your doubts for later. You can get them all cleared at one place altogether. Now there are various options available for CAT subscription, like I said earlier, with the most lucrative ones being the 12-month and the 24-month plans. Do not forget to use my referral code, which is Nitika10, Nitika 10. You can use this code to go for any subscription, any course on the Unacademy platform. Do not forget that. And before I end today's class, I would like to remind you guys, tomorrow there are two classes that I'm supposed to take. There would be one on the capsule course on grammar, which will take place from 1 p.m. to 2:30 p.m. Tomorrow's class will help you with error spotting, and it's a doubt clearing session for you guys in case you have any doubts in the topics which have already been taken in this course. So do not forget to attend tomorrow's lecture, because tomorrow's lecture will also offer you a kind of a revision of what all has been done up till now. In case if you would have missed any class in capsule course and grammar, you will be able to attend that as well. Other than that, the next course, the present course which we were taking a class for right now, the capsule course on reading comprehension, cat reading comprehension, will take place from 6:30 p.m. to 8 p.m. tomorrow. And tomorrow we will look at the second leg of types of questions. So today we were only able to target a few types of questions, and tomorrow we will look at types of questions O2. So today was O1, tomorrow we'll look at O2, and after tomorrow you will be done with what all types of questions actually turn up on the examination, and how exactly are you expected to attempt them, and how to streamline your preparation in accordance with this. That's all for the day, guys. Do not